What's going on, kings and queens? Thanks for joining me again on Keeping It Copacetic. I'm going to be going on into chapter 24 today. Before we get into chapter 4, let's do a short recap on chapter 23, which was kind of short. It was basically George inviting Portia to come and move into his place with him. She wasn't quite ready to move in, but she did go over, take some few things over there and spend a few nights there. And he did meet her daughter, Pam, and they seemed like they were going to get along. So it was just a transition for her. Everything's kind of going pretty good, going calmly. But then she starts to get a little antsy because she's one of those people who, when everything is going good, they're looking for that other shoe to drop. They're like, something's going on. So I guess I'm somewhat like that myself. But anyway, I'm still sipping on this mushroom coffee, trying to get my digestion right after misbehaving, eating everything I should not have been eating on my little short trip to Philadelphia. But hey, sometimes you got to do that. Got to treat yourself, enjoy yourself so that you can keep it copacetic. So take this time to sit back and relax. Get a nice, comfortable spot and a comfortable chair. Lean back, put your feet up. If you're driving, go ahead and, hey, sip you some type of coffee or something like some type of tea, some fresh water. Just keep yourself awake and alert and be safe out on that road. So let's go ahead and get into chapter 24. All right, let's get into it. Chapter 24. I'm stuffed, I said, leaning back from the table of the employee Christmas party. The caterers outdid themselves this year, George said. You didn't eat that much, I said to him as we sat together at a table in front of the quartet playing the music of the season. I'm going to be on call all this weekend. Overeating slows me down, and I don't need that starting off. I guess that means I won't be seeing you tonight. Not unless you need some intensive care, he said, being playful. I do need some, I said, joking, but it's not an emergency. I've got to go, he said, standing up and squeezing my shoulder with his hand drifting up the side of my neck. Get some rest, and I'll see you when I can. It was just a week before Christmas, and all non-essential hospital personnel would be off until the new year. I watched George weave through the crowd in his white coat and prayed the next 36 hours would fly by. On the way back to my office, I bumped into Keith, the first prospect of my mission. Happy holidays, I said, not wanting to appear ill at ease. Portia, how are you? He said pleasantly, standing with a group of his colleagues. I'm doing great. How about you? I can't complain, he said, lifting up his left hand around the plastic cup of punch, and I took notice of the wedding ring. Congratulations, I said, flashing him a sincere smile and wondering how old the new wife was. He nodded, and I made my way back to the office to call it a day. I glanced out of the window while I put on my coat and took in the beauty of the lighter-than-air snowflakes that wisp across the courtyard, decorating the evergreens and rooftops like a winter wonderland. The Christmas spirit was stirring, and I was starting to feel it again. I had not experienced the joy of it in a long time. Keisha, I would like to wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, I said, handing her a holiday bonus inside a card on my way out. Thank you, Miss Roberts. Same to you, she said, sitting at her desk wearing a Santa hat and earrings that rang like a bell when she moved. Close it down early, and I'll see you next year. Take care, I said, pulling the door behind me. Be careful, she said just before the door closed. Pam was standing in the doorway as soon as I walked up the steps from the garage into the kitchen at home. You got a special delivery today, she said, looking rather serious. What was it? I asked, putting down my messenger bag and purse in a chair. She didn't answer. She just handed me a large brown envelope. Inside was the final divorce decree from the county clerk's office. Wow, was all I could manage to say. I was speechless. Dad probably got one too. I'm going over there for a few days. You already have somebody to keep you company, she said, picking up her coat off of the other chair and rushing out of the room. Her small suitcase was packed in the living room, and she snatched it up on her way out of the front door. Pam, I shouted behind her. I'll call you, Mama, she said without turning around, and then she shut the door. Damn, I said to myself. Why am I always the bad guy? I plopped down on all the carefully arranged pillows on the love seat and looked at the papers with mixed emotions. This was a close to the biggest portion of my life. On one hand, I was sad about the way it ended, why it ended, and I wondered if I should have tried one last time to make it work. On the other hand, I was happy to have a fresh start to pursue a relationship with George. Yet I was afraid. Maybe I was moving too fast. What if there were more hurdles waiting for me? I wanted to see my future. It was Friday evening, and I was by myself. I had promised my family, George, and myself that I would leave the propofol alone, but at that moment I felt weak and the temptation was so strong. I looked in my hiding place in the refrigerator and took out the vial, went up the steps and pulled out my injection kit. I put on my red silk pajamas to keep with the festivity of the holidays, pulled the covers up to my waist and prepared the needle. I had second thoughts before I injected, but I pushed them out of my head as the plunger went down into the chamber. The sensation of falling started immediately, and I just relaxed into it and let my body spin and fall into the atmosphere. Then it was as if I wasn't falling anymore. The essence of my being became a whisper of the wind itself. It's in this weightlessness that I can move through time. It's like a trap door or an escape route to another dimension. I think to myself that I don't want to fall back, that I want to fly forward. I reverse the spinning and I start to rise as the beams of light encircle me. They intensify as the light divides into prisms of color. Images bathed in green and brown come into focus, but I have a sensation of flying and I feel vibrations surrounding me. The circling above me begins to slow and I feel myself going down. The helicopter lands and I'm directed to the west side of the building and taken inside the room where Javier is waiting. I'm escorted by 4 Secret Servicemen on my every side, making me feel like the magnetic needle in the center of a compass. The man in the front opens the door and I walk inside. Benita, I'm so happy to see you, Javier says, rising up from his seat at the table and giving me a hug. I can feel the tension and the stiffness of his arms on my shoulders. I'm always just a phone call away. You know that, I say, backing up and taking his hand to walk back to the table. All hell is about to break loose. Threats of missiles firing are coming from all ends of the earth, and the panic among the people has set in, he said as we sit down. That's why you're here today, my brother. This is your destiny, to be the calm amidst all of the turmoil, I say, rubbing my hand across his back to soothe him. What if our adversaries decide to invade our borders and take over our water stores? That wouldn't make sense. What they can take won't last a year. It's the knowledge that they need to continue to survive long term. Thank God we have it, Benita. You were born for this moment, Javier. I have always believed that, and Mama and Papi would be so proud. No one else would have believed he could have come this far, but I sensed it a long time ago as I watched my brother grow up. I knew he was born to do great things. I was 9 years older than him, so I was more of a mother to him than his big sister. He had the brains and the charisma at an early age, and I had seen to it that he had the best education money could buy. Times were harder on our family back then when we were kids. Mama and Papi were laborers, picking peaches and tomatoes near Charleston, South Carolina. Seeing them struggle, I made up my mind back then that I would work hard and help my family get to a better life. I studied long hours into the night to make good grades, and I was a whiz in math. When I got the scholarship to Temple University in Philadelphia, I knew I was on my way to making all of our dreams a reality. Benita, why don't you study to be a doctor? My Papi would always ask whenever I came home for a visit. I don't like hospitals, Papi. I have a weak stomach. The only sterile place I plan to work is in my own office, I would answer. You don't have the heart that it takes to make it in corporate America, my mama would say. You're always trying to help somebody. You don't get rich doing that in this country. You will be surprised, mama. You can make a fortune doing the right thing and nobody has to suffer. It was true. I was on the kind-hearted side, but I was a shrewd businesswoman. My first business class taught me to find a need and fill it, and I focused on the needs of the future. I suspected that with the burgeoning populations around the world, that pure water would eventually become the new liquid gold. I did my research, and an early investment of mine made a ton of money from water filters that purified seawater or contaminated water into drinking water. I made another small fortune buying a company that discovered an economical method to produce hydrogen fuel. Driven as I was, I never married or had a family of my own. I used a significant portion of my wealth to bankroll my brother's political career after he graduated in law school. And it was money well spent because now he was the Vice President of the United States, the highest ranking Hispanic in the history of the country, and literally a heartbeat away from being the president of the United States, with the president hospitalized in a diabetic coma. Benita, things are at a boiling point, and I'm not sure how to contain the situation. Purified water supplies around the world are dangerously low. Destructive riots or violence could break out at any time. Relax, Javier. This has a diplomatic solution. We have the technology, but we don't have to give it away. The leaderships of these countries have pilfered the money from the people for the last 50 years. They need to go into their pockets and build the facilities to provide the filters for water. My concern is how to keep the peace in the interim. Trying to police the planet is what broke and bankrupted the United States in the first place, and we have nothing to show for it. I understand that, Bonita, but we have received warnings that missiles are already poised for retaliation. Reprisal for what action, Javier? Threats and attacks are for those who have no other cards to play. We've got an ace. We've got the ace of spades. Technology, and believe it or not, the free market still exists. The one constant is money. It talks and bullshit walks, my brother. I don't want to have to bargain and see people die so the filthy rich can hang on to their coffers. We're in a period of adjustment. Money will have to change hands and jobs will be recreated. We were so close to civil war 12 years ago, and how you handle this emergency will determine whether this country recoups its economic status. You have to make the well-being of the American people your first priority. That was a costly lesson that nearly destroyed this country. I have to give a press conference in 15 minutes, and I know they've set virtual traps for me to fall into. So many want to see me fail. Don't worry, Javier. You know I'm your chief ally. You dictate the pace and the tone of the press conference, I advise him before we go down. They want to see if I'm in charge, Benita. That's what you're about to show them, Javier. But don't let them make you think you have something to prove, because you don't. You have the right to be here. You have earned it. When the elevator door opens in the east wing, my brother and I step out and walk into the press briefing room. Cameras begin flashing and a low roar of voices grows louder as he moves towards the podium. I look proudly out into the sea of microphones pointed in his direction. Relax, stay composed, I repeat in my mind, trying to telepathically relay those words to my brother. Take only one question at a time. Keep it orderly. Don't let them take the control from you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. As put forth in the 25th Amendment, Section 4, the President has been declared disabled. At 1 o'clock this afternoon, I became the acting President. I'm here to put the American people at ease. There's no reason for us to panic or behave rashly due to the challenges before us. We have the resources that we need to function normally for many decades to come. Now I'll take questions. Hands wave in the air, and Javier points to a woman from the United Press International. Mr. Vice President, have you come to any solid decisions concerning the imminent threat of depleting water that is escalating around the world? This is a vital global concern, and the world leaders will have to come to an agreement on the direction to which we all have to proceed. We have the technology available to solve the problem. We just need diplomacy. Cool heads must come together and negotiate. Javier took another question from a major broadcast network. Mr. Vice President, will we need to institute a draft to mobilize troops at strategic bases on the major continents? Past attempts to police the world have proven to be too expensive without meaningful returns, my brother answers. The technology for supplying pure water will not be used as a weapon or withheld from any nation. China and India are in better positions to supply any manpower that is needed. The United States doesn't have the human capital to reach around the world. A man from the New York Times asked, how do you propose we maintain safety and security for the American people? Our security is not in jeopardy. There is a developing urgency in the world based on our need for suitable drinking water, and we have the ability to fill this need. Still, there is the issue of economics. Nonetheless, we are willing to arrange a summit to come to a peaceful solution for the survival of us all. I nod to Javier after his response to signal to him that he has said enough. Thank you very much, he says, and we walk out with the cameras flashing at our backs. Inside the Oval Office, I pace around the floor, taking in the view of the trees and flowers until Javier finishes speaking outside the door with his aides. Well done, Javier. You made your points. Now all you have to do is wait for the phone to ring, I said, patting him on the back. Read. Keep all lines of communication open. When words of willingness to talk comes, notify me immediately, he says to the Chief of Staff. Yes, Mr. Vice President, he says, leaving us alone to talk. I wonder who will be the first to rise to the occasion and take the lead, Benita. I don't know, Javier. India is now the most powerful nation. China is nearly as strong, but they are compromised by a host of environmental issues. But they will both have to play the role of the Good Samaritan for a change. I'm worried that this could start a whole new barrage of terrorist attacks from the Middle East. Don't become preoccupied with what lurks in the shadows. That region has imploded. They weakened themselves with wars and conflict. And now with the dwindling demand for oil, they have made themselves irrelevant. Hydrogen energy is going to be at the top of the future energy resources. Excuse me, Vice President Planas. There has been an incident on the Canadian border. There's been a change in the president's condition, Reed says, bursting into the office. You're needed at the hospital right away. I'll brief you on the way. The helicopter's waiting. Are you coming, Benita? Go on. I'll wait for you here with Rosalind and the kids. I couldn't be with him every moment, and he would need to start thinking for himself and making his own decisions without me. Rosalind and I sat together, watching the news reports. Multitudes were trampling across our borders from the north and the south. The insurrections were beginning, and the people were storming the American embassies around the world. An emergency interruption on the broadcast announces, the condition of the president has deteriorated over the past 24 hours, and we have received an official report from the Bethesda Naval Hospital that the president has died. Oh my God, Rosalind gasped. What have I done? I say under my breath, standing on my feet. I had wanted so much for my brother, but this wasn't what I hoped it would be. He was now in the axis of the world's turmoil. How would he manage under the pressure of increasing pandemonium? Was it his dream or mine? I feel my knees weaken under me and my head feels light. I'm passing out. Everything appears to move in slow motion as I'm falling. When I came to, I lay there for a while thinking. I had come to the understanding that we all have to live our own lives and make our own choices. I was divorced and Pam was grown. I had a fresh start, but now I was afraid of making a mistake. A critical case of the what ifs had me paralyzed like a deer in headlights. I reached for the phone and called Paula. And that is chapter 24. We just have 2 chapters left. Probably go ahead and do them all together. And that will be the end of Searching for Everland. Thanks for joining me on Keeping It Copacetic. I will see you again next time and we will finish this book. Take care. Be safe.